Feeling like giving up is the moment that defines your future. Every successful person has faced it. The doubt, the fear, the endless "I can't do this." But what separates winners from quitters is action, habits, and the mindset to push forward when everything inside screams stop. This audiobook reveals 10 life-changing strategies to fuel motivation, build resilience, and create unstoppable momentum. You'll discover how to take control of your mind, turn obstacles into opportunities, and make progress daily, no matter how hard life gets. Hit subscribe, stay consistent, and watch your life transform without distraction or delays. Chapter 1. Rediscover your why. Fuel motivation through core purpose. When the weight of the world sits heavy on the chest and every step feels like pushing through molasses, the easiest option looks like walking away. Giving up sells a quiet promise. Rest, relief, escape. That promise is seductive because it answers pain with immediate change. The harder, braver answer is to keep going with a clearer aim, to reconnect with the reason that first sparked effort. Rediscovering your why is not sentimental. It is a tactical reset. It clears the fog so action becomes purposeful. And purpose is the thos that turns small, painful steps into movement that matters. Begin by acknowledging what is true. Pain exists. Failure sometimes follows, and discomfort is a natural companion to growth. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Those words are not consolation. They are a manual. There is a gap between what happens to you and how you respond. Your why lives in that gap. Finding it narrows the gap and gives the next step shape. This chapter gives practical directions to identify that why, anchor it in daily habits, and use it as a compass when doubt grows loud. First, uncover the source. Purpose is rarely a single bright idea. It is a cluster of commitments, the people you care for, the pain you refuse to accept, the legacy you want to leave. Start with a simple exercise. Take a sheet of paper and answer 5 questions, 1 per page, handwritten. 1. Who matters most to you and why? 2. What problem do you refuse to tolerate in your life or in the world? 3. What work makes the hours disappear for you? 4. Where do people look to you for steadiness? 5. If success were guaranteed, what would you attempt tomorrow? Don't edit, write raw answers, cross nothing out. When answers appear, patterns emerge. That pattern is the map to your why. Next, compress the map into a sentence you can hold under pressure. A purpose statement should be brief and direct. No buzzwords, no cliches. Examples: create honest work that helps working parents afford time with their kids. Or design tools that make learning accessible for anyone. A strong why has 3 qualities. It is specific, it connects to other people or a value beyond personal gain, and it is framed as action. Put that sentence where the mind will meet it at daybreak and nightfall, on a sticky note on the mirror, as a phone lock screen, or written in the first line of your morning journal. Repetition does not make the why true. It trains the nervous system to move in the direction of meaning when impulses whisper otherwise. Cut the why into tasks that feel near. Parkinson's law teaches that work expands to the time allotted. Use that. Allocate 15 to 30-minute time blocks directly tied to your why. If the why is build tools to help learners, then today's block might be draft 1 lesson outline. If the why is support my family's future, a block might be call 1 potential client. Small, non-ambiguous actions remove the tyranny of vague goals and make resistance manageable. Action reduces dread. Dread feeds paralysis. Stoicism offers 2 practices that turn the why into armor. The first is negative visualization. Imagine losing the thing you are striving to protect, the job, the relationship, the health. This is not pessimism, it is clarifying gratitude that sharpens priorities. When the worst case is pictured, the true value of the pursuit becomes obvious. The second practice is voluntary discomfort, a controlled, temporary choice to suffer in small doses. Waking earlier, skipping comfort food, doing a cold shower, these micro resets train willpower and make the cost of giving up feel heavier than the cost of continuing. Language matters. Replace I should or I have to with I choose to. Responsibility shifts from external pressure to internal agency. I choose to write for 30 minutes carries more dignity than duty framed as an obligation. That dignity becomes the muscle memory of discipline. Use implementation intentions to make choices automatic. If I feel the urge to skip work, then I will open my draft and type for 5 minutes. Small agreements between you and your future self are surprisingly effective. Make the why visible, not abstract. Create an evidence box, physical or digital. Add a handwritten letter from someone you helped. A photo of a moment that mattered, metrics that show incremental progress, a printed note of your purpose sentence. When doubt comes, open the box. Sensory details matter. Touch the paper, smell the ink, see the photograph. The body processes evidence. The box is a reminder anchored in reality that your efforts are not empty. Build ritual around the why. Ritual converts scattered intention into reliable habit. Start and end the day with a 60-second ritual tied to your purpose. Morning, read your why aloud, write a single sentence on the day's priority, and take one action within 10 minutes. Evening, log one small win and one lesson. That loop, intention, action, reflection, is the daily compound interest of meaningful work. Over months, small rituals align behavior to purpose more reliably than occasional bursts of motivation. Handle external critics with an inward strategy. People will question the pursuit, practicality, timing, sacrifice. Evaluate critique with a stoic filter. Is the criticism helpful data or noise? Useful feedback refines methods. Empty negativity erodes spirit. Ask 3 clarifying questions to any critique. 1. What specific change is being suggested? 2. What is the evidence supporting it? 3. How does it connect to my why? When critique fails those tests, set it aside. Protect attention. Time is finite. Attention is the currency of purpose. Create accountability that extends beyond willpower. Choose one person who understands and respects the why, not necessarily a cheerleader, but someone honest. Make a simple pact, a weekly check-in of no more than 10 minutes, where progress is reported and obstacles named. Public commitments increase follow-through. If that feels too vulnerable, commit to a small donation to a cause you dislike. When goals are missed, loss aversion is powerful. The point is not shame. The point is externalizing consequence so that the internal fog lifts. When exhaustion is acute, use permission as a tool, not an exit strategy. Permission is legitimate rest in service of long-term sustainability. Distinguish between rest and surrender. Rest recharges with a plan to return. Surrender rewires the default toward quitting. Use a 72-hour rule. If the urge to quit persists beyond 3 days, then take a full day to rest and a second to audit the reasons. If after the audit, the why still feels misaligned, pivot with intention. Purpose sometimes evolves. Quitting without analysis is damage. Pivoting with integrity is wisdom. Measure progress in processes, not only outcomes. The Pareto principle 80-10-20 suggests a minority of actions produce the majority of results. Identify the two activities that most serve the why and perform them with consistency. Track effort, not emotion. A daily log that notes time invested and task completed will quickly reveal patterns. Reward the process. When a habit is observed and praised, neural pathways strengthen. Praise must be specific. 30 minutes of focused writing completed beats vague self-talk like good job. Finally, cultivate a sense of service. Purpose that serves others expands beyond ego and provides an immune system against self-doubt. If the why includes helping a specific person or group, keep a sensory reminder of them during work. A photo, a recorded voice note, a saved email, presence of the served party transforms effort into devotion. Service reframes sacrifice into offering, and offering carries intrinsic reward that resists collapse. When the storm hits again, read this aloud. This is hard. This is necessary. This is mine. Hard acknowledgements clear the mind. Ownership brings strength. The most resilient lives are not built on unbroken morale, but on repeated choices to stand when standing is costly. Discipline tames emotion not by elimination, but by rechanneling it into action, consistent with purpose. Practical next steps to implement immediately. Write 5 pages of raw answers to the 5 discovery questions. Compress the results into a single purpose sentence. Place it where the eyes rest each morning. Define one 20-minute block today tied directly to that sentence. Perform negative visualization for 5 minutes to sharpen gratitude. Join or name an accountability partner and schedule a brief weekly check-in and create an evidence box with one item you can touch right now. These steps are small, precise, and immediate. They convert intention into momentum. The closing truth. Purpose does not erase hardship. It orders it. Difficulty becomes fertilizer for growth when framed by a clear why. The law of cause and effect is steady. Consistent small causes compound into significant effects. When the energy to continue is absent, purpose is the match that lights a single candle. That candle does not banish the night at once, but it gives a point to navigate toward. Keep the candle near, tend it daily, and when the night seems endless, remember that direction beats speed. The why is the direction. Chapter 2. Small wins matter. Break tasks into achievable steps. When everything feels overwhelming, the mind screams at you to stop, and giving up seems like the simplest choice. The truth is that monumental goals are rarely conquered in a single leap. Even the most successful people, from Olympic athletes to world-class entrepreneurs, rely on the principle of small wins. These incremental victories are the building blocks of lasting achievement. Small wins matter because they create momentum, boost confidence, and transform mountains of tasks into manageable, conquerable steps. Every large success is really a series of tiny victories stacked one after another, and understanding this principle can change the way challenges are approached forever. The key is in breaking down what feels insurmountable into segments that are tangible and actionable. A task like write a book or launch a business is abstract and paralyzing until it is broken into measurable components. For example, writing a book can feel impossible if you only see the finished product. But if the goal is divided into draft 1 page today or outline 1 chapter tonight, progress becomes visible. Every small task completed is a mini celebration, reinforcing the belief that the end goal is achievable. Momentum doesn't come from motivation alone. It comes from repeated evidence that action produces results. Actionable practice is simple. Identify one big goal and split it into 20-minute increments. The rule is to focus entirely on completing the increment without worrying about the entirety of the task. A 20-minute period of absolute focus, done consistently, compounds faster than sporadic bursts of long, unfocused effort. Productivity expert Brian Tracy emphasizes this in his teachings, saying, "The key to success is to focus our conscious mind on things we desire, not things we fear. By focusing on manageable pieces, fear diminishes and achievement becomes inevitable." Consider a real-life example. James Clear, author of Atomic Habits, recounts how he transformed his health through small wins. Instead of attempting drastic overhauls in diet and exercise that were impossible to maintain, he committed to performing a single push-up a day. One push-up may seem trivial, but it was enough to start a routine. The following day, he did 2. Over time, the habit expanded organically into a complete fitness regimen. This simple, almost laughably small step became the catalyst for massive personal transformation. The same logic applies to professional life, relationships, and personal growth. The smallest deliberate action is often the most underrated driver of lasting change. Small wins also feed the psychological principle of progress. The human brain responds powerfully to visible movement toward a goal. Each step accomplished releases a microdose of dopamine, a reward signal that reinforces behavior. That chemical encouragement is crucial when motivation wanes. If goals are perceived as unreachable, the mind's natural defense mechanism is to procrastinate or quit entirely. But when tasks are visibly conquered, the brain interprets the journey as achievable. Celebrating each step, no matter how small, is not frivolous, it is functional. Breaking tasks into achievable steps requires specificity. Ambiguous intentions like "get fit" or "grow my business" will never motivate sustained action. Clarity converts vague desire into measurable effort. For instance, instead of "grow my business," define it as "contact 3 potential clients today," or "write 1 marketing email tonight." Instead of "get fit," define it as "walk 1,000 steps in the morning." Actionable, measurable goals eliminate ambiguity and create a direct path from effort to result. This specificity transforms tasks into small, clear victories that can be achieved daily. Another reason small wins matter is that they build resilience. Large projects and goals are often riddled with setbacks, uncertainty, and challenges. By focusing on incremental victories, the mind learns to tolerate discomfort while still producing results. Each small win becomes proof that adversity can be overcome. This principle works across industries. In technology startups, developers launch minimal viable products, MVPs, before building fully polished applications. The MVP is a small win that informs the next step, prevents burnout, and maintains momentum. Attempting to deliver the final product immediately often leads to failure, while incremental progress ensures learning, growth, and consistent advancement. For practical application, create a small wins journal. At the start of each day, define 3 micro-tasks that will contribute to larger goals. At the end of the day, mark what was accomplished and reflect on how each step moved you closer to your overarching vision. This practice serves 2 purposes. It tracks measurable progress and reinforces the psychological reward of achievement. The habit of recording and reviewing micro-achievements keeps motivation alive even on difficult days. Over weeks and months, these small wins compound into monumental results that feel effortless in retrospect. Small wins also shift perspective. When tasks feel too large, the mind often fixates on obstacles rather than solutions. By focusing on manageable actions, attention shifts from fear to agency. Problems are reframed as opportunities to complete the next step rather than as unmovable barriers. Stoic philosophy teaches that control lies in response, not circumstance. Epictetus wrote, "It's not what happens to you but how you react to it that matters." Small wins are an application of that principle. They focus energy on what can be controlled, the next deliberate action, rather than wasted on immovable problems. Consistency is another critical factor amplified by small wins. Completing small tasks repeatedly ingrains habits that eventually require minimal conscious effort. Habits are the infrastructure of success. While monumental goals seem to require extraordinary effort, it is actually ordinary consistency in small steps that produces extraordinary outcomes. For example, Warren Buffett did not become a billionaire overnight. He invested methodically, studying, learning, and compounding small gains over decades. The principle is universal. Small repeated actions are invisible engines behind visible success. Equally important is acknowledging that setbacks will occur. Even the most disciplined person misses a day or fails at a micro task. The difference lies in recovery. Returning to the next small win immediately after a slip is far more productive than waiting for motivation or feeling ready. Momentum is maintained by persistence, not perfection. The practice of small wins encourages flexibility, adaptability, and resilience, because each victory, however minor, is a step forward rather than a measure of ultimate worth. Real-world implementation requires one simple step today. Identify one area where overwhelm is preventing progress. Break it down into 3 measurable actions that can be completed within 30 minutes. Perform the first action immediately. Document the result. Then continue to the second and third. Celebrate each completion. Notice how the sense of achievement, no matter how small, shifts mindset from despair to empowerment. This single practice transforms dread into action, and action into habit. Small wins are not trivial. They are the secret infrastructure of extraordinary achievement. The world glorifies massive leaps, viral successes, and overnight transformations, but real progress is constructed quietly, step by step. By consciously breaking tasks into achievable pieces, celebrating each victory, and reinforcing forward motion, anyone can build momentum that defies obstacles. Success is less about grandiose effort and more about consistent, intelligent action applied daily. Every small win, every deliberate step, compounds into results that change life, mindset, and possibility forever. The closing truth is simple. The next step matters more than the entirety of the journey. Momentum grows from completion, not perfection. Each small win, no matter how insignificant it seems, is a building block. Approach every task with clarity, break it into achievable actions, and complete them with focus. The cumulative effect is unstoppable. Start today. Complete one micro task. Feel the shift. Let small wins carry you farther than you ever imagined, because success does not arrive fully formed. It is constructed patiently and deliberately, one step at a time. Chapter 3. Shift perspective. Turn obstacles into growth opportunities. Obstacles are inevitable. Life does not deliver success on a silver platter, and challenges often arrive unannounced, testing patience, resolve, and focus. Yet the difference between those who stumble and those who rise lies not in circumstance but in perspective. A challenge is not an endpoint, it is a doorway. How the mind interprets obstacles determines whether they become walls that trap potential or stepping stones that expand it. Shifting perspective transforms struggle into opportunity, weakness into strength, and adversity into a teacher that prepares the mind and character for the victories that follow. The first step in shifting perspective is understanding that perception shapes reality. The mind is a lens, and what is seen through it is colored by assumptions, fears, and habits of thought. Two individuals may face identical setbacks. One will despair, the other will grow. The difference is not in the event, but in the interpretation. Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor and psychiatrist, wrote, "When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. In every hardship lies a lesson. if the mind is willing to look for it. Obstacles are not enemies. They are mirrors, reflecting what needs strength, skill, or attention. Reframing adversity starts with questions. When an unexpected problem arises, instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" ask, "What can this teach me, and how can this make me stronger?" Questions of curiosity replace questions of defeat. They open the mind to possibilities rather than closing it with self-pity. Every setback carries insight into weaknesses, strategies, and approaches that might have been overlooked. The practice of turning obstacles into growth is rooted in inquiry. Asking the right questions leads to actionable answers that directly improve capability and resilience. Practical application begins with a simple exercise, the obstacle journal. Each day, write down a challenge encountered, and then list 3 ways it could provide growth, knowledge, or skill. For instance, if an unexpected rejection occurs at work, note it and then consider, what feedback is embedded here? What skill can I improve for next time? How does this build emotional endurance? Over time, the journal reveals patterns, teaches lessons that would otherwise be invisible, and rewires the brain to scan difficulties for opportunity rather than threat. This practice creates a habit of proactive thinking, where setbacks become informative rather than debilitating. Real-life examples illuminate the power of perspective. Oprah Winfrey, one of the most influential figures of our time, was fired from her first television job because she was unfit for TV. Most would have accepted the verdict and retreated. Instead, she interpreted the obstacle as feedback on how to refine her presence, her delivery, and her connection with audiences. That single shift in perspective became the foundation for decades of success, ultimately turning initial rejection into global influence. Each failure, when viewed as a lesson, compounds into an advantage that those blinded by frustration never experience. Perspective also shapes emotional response. Challenges initially provoke fear, frustration, or anger. These emotions are natural and valid, but prolonged focus on them drains energy and clouds judgment. Shifting perspective allows for emotion to exist without control. Stoic philosophy teaches that external events are neutral. Meaning is assigned by the observer. Seneca wrote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." By accepting the emotional surge, but consciously choosing to interpret events constructively, energy is redirected from resistance to progress. Obstacles then become fuel rather than friction. Breaking down obstacles is another essential step. Large problems are often paralyzing because they appear monolithic. By deconstructing them into smaller, actionable elements, the mind sees the way forward. For example, an entrepreneur facing plummeting sales might feel helpless. Shifting perspective reframes the issue. The decline is data, not failure. The individual can analyze customer behavior, adjust marketing strategies, and implement targeted solutions. The obstacle transforms from a wall into a roadmap, guiding focused action rather than inducing panic. Clarity in decomposition converts ambiguity into strategy. Visualization is a powerful tool in this process. Imagine a challenge not as a barrier, but as a test of skill. Athletes, for example, do not view a competitor's strength as intimidating. They internalize it as an opportunity to hone technique, speed, and resilience. Similarly, visualizing obstacles as opportunities primes the brain to search for solutions instead of ruminating on impossibility. Every mental rehearsal creates neural pathways that make adaptive action easier and more natural in real-life situations. Perspective can also be enhanced by reframing language. Words carry implicit meaning and influence cognition. Replace statements like "I can't" with "I haven't yet," or "This is difficult, but I will learn." Words that imply possibility rather than finality activate the brain's problem-solving networks. This linguistic adjustment fosters hope, reduces stress, and encourages creative thinking. Subtle as it may seem, the way challenges are verbally framed determines the emotional intensity and the likelihood of constructive action. Another key element is embracing discomfort as a teacher. Growth rarely comes from ease. It emerges from persistent engagement with resistance. Pain, delay, and uncertainty are all rich sources of skill and insight. Thomas Edison experienced thousands of failed attempts before inventing the light bulb. Each attempt, though initially frustrating, provided data, understanding, and incremental mastery. Rather than viewing failure as a conclusion, it can be seen as a step in a process. Obstacles are the tuition fee of experience. They charge us only because their lessons are valuable. For practical implementation, identify one current challenge. Write it down, then intentionally create 3 potential growth opportunities hidden within it. For example, if public speaking induces anxiety, growth opportunities might include building confidence, learning audience engagement techniques, or improving vocal clarity. Commit to taking one action today that leverages the obstacle for growth. This simple shift, repeated daily, rewires thought patterns, enhances emotional resilience, and creates a forward-moving trajectory even when external circumstances appear unfavorable. Perspective also strengthens self-trust. When obstacles are approached with curiosity and action, confidence grows. The mind begins to rely on its own judgment, creativity, and problem-solving capacity rather than external validation. This internal reliability is far more durable than luck, circumstance, or approval. People who master perspective experience freedom. Their response, not the obstacle, determines outcomes. They develop a habit of interpreting setbacks as invitations to innovate, persist, and evolve. Finally, the principle of compounding insight ensures long-term transformation. Each obstacle approached with growth in mind adds a layer of skill, patience, and understanding. Over months and years, the cumulative effect produces resilience, creativity, and wisdom far beyond what isolated victories can generate. Life becomes less about avoiding difficulty and more about extracting value from every experience. Obstacles cease to be interruptions. They become integral instruments in a purposeful journey. The closing truth is simple yet profound. Challenges are inevitable, but suffering is optional. How an obstacle is perceived determines whether it shrinks the spirit or expands it. Shift perspective, and resistance becomes a guide. Fear becomes information, and setbacks become accelerators. Practice the daily habit of identifying growth within every challenge. Take deliberate action to extract lessons and document insights. The result is not only problem-solving ability but a mindset that turns adversity into opportunity repeatedly, reliably, and powerfully. Perspective is the key that transforms struggle into mastery, and mastery lies within reach of anyone willing to view obstacles as teachers rather than threats. Chapter 4. Build resilience. Strengthen mind through daily challenges. Resilience is not a trait reserved for the chosen few. It is a skill honed through deliberate effort, practiced every day in small, tangible ways. Life is unpredictable, and challenges do not follow a convenient schedule. They appear in sudden failures, unexpected responsibilities, or emotional upheavals. Strengthening the mind through daily challenges is not about avoiding hardship. It is about learning to bend without breaking, to recover without resentment, and to use adversity as fuel rather than a chain. Every experience, when approached intentionally, becomes a rehearsal for resilience, training the mind to respond with composure, clarity, and courage even under pressure. The process begins with acknowledgement. A resilient mind does not pretend obstacles do not exist. It names them, studies them, and considers their impact without panic or dramatization. Awareness transforms fear into analysis. Recognizing the difficulty without exaggerating it allows the mind to prepare a measured response. The Stoics referred to this as premeditation malorum, the anticipation of challenges to reduce their emotional shock. By visualizing potential hardships and rehearsing reactions, the mind creates preparedness, reducing vulnerability to panic or impulsive decisions. Resilience grows when preparation intersects with experience, building confidence in one's capacity to endure. Daily challenges serve as intentional micro-laboratories for resilience. Purposeful discomfort trains the mind to navigate uncertainty. This could be as simple as waking 30 minutes earlier to tackle a difficult task, engaging in physical training that pushes limits, or deliberately entering situations that provoke discomfort but are not harmful. Each encounter with controlled difficulty strengthens the neural pathways associated with self-discipline, stress tolerance, and problem-solving. The cumulative effect is profound. Small, repeated challenges condition the mind to face major life events with composure, as prior experience has proven the capacity to endure. Practical application is straightforward and requires consistent execution. Create a daily challenge list with 3 items that stretch capability or provoke minor discomfort. For example, initiate a difficult conversation with honesty, complete a task you have been procrastinating on, or engage in a physical effort beyond your comfort level. The purpose is not immediate mastery, but consistent engagement. Completing challenges that are slightly beyond current skill or patience creates a reliable feedback loop. Action reinforces capability, and capability reinforces confidence. Real-life examples illustrate the potency of resilience cultivated through daily effort. Consider J.K. Rowling, who faced repeated rejection before publishing the Harry Potter series. Each rejection could have been a blow that stopped progress, but she treated them as a test of perseverance, an opportunity to refine her manuscript and strengthen resolve. Those incremental mental victories, the choice to continue writing, to submit again, to believe despite discouragement, culminated in extraordinary success. Each daily act of persistence built resilience, demonstrating how small, repeated efforts forge the foundation for monumental achievements. Resilience also depends on the cultivation of perspective. The mind often interprets challenges as threats rather than opportunities for growth. By reframing setbacks as exercises in skill development, problem-solving and emotional control, stress becomes a teacher rather than a prison. Every obstacle holds a lesson, and the resilient mind actively seeks it. This perspective allows setbacks to energize rather than paralyze. It transforms the mental narrative from "I am failing" to "I am learning," which is critical because belief about one's capacity directly influences action and endurance. Language and internal dialogue are essential tools in resilience building. Replace self-defeating thoughts like "I can't handle this" with statements that reinforce capability, such as "I can handle this step by step," or "This challenge is temporary and I will grow from it." Words shape neural patterns. Consistent use of empowering language rewires the brain for confidence, persistence, and composure. The mind begins to interpret stress not as insurmountable, but as an opportunity for growth, which drastically alters physiological and emotional responses. Another critical aspect is emotional regulation. Daily challenges produce stress, frustration, and doubt, all of which test endurance. A resilient mind does not seek to eliminate these emotions, but to channel them constructively. Techniques such as controlled breathing, brief meditation, or focused reflection provide mental space to respond rather than react. By practicing this regulation consistently, the mind becomes trained to maintain clarity, even in high-pressure situations, enabling solutions and progress where others succumb to emotional overwhelm. Physical challenges amplify mental resilience. Engaging the body in controlled stress through exercise, cold exposure, or disciplined routines trains the nervous system to handle discomfort. The feedback from physical endurance transfers to mental endurance. Athletes often describe moments of extreme fatigue where the mind pushes the body beyond perceived limits. These experiences demonstrate that capacity is often greater than believed, and that repeated exposure to difficulty strengthens belief in personal capability. The mind internalizes patterns of endurance, which then influence broader life challenges. Practical implementation requires immediate action. Select one activity today that feels slightly uncomfortable or challenging and commit to completing it fully. Document the experience. Document the experience. What emotions arose, how the body and mind responded, and what lessons can be extracted. This reflective practice turns ordinary experience into a laboratory for growth. Each completed challenge reinforces the principle that discomfort does not equal defeat. It signals opportunity for strengthening. Over time, resilience becomes habitual, embedded in thought, emotion, and behavior. Resilience is amplified by gratitude for the process. Acknowledging that every challenge faced is an opportunity to grow diminishes resistance and fosters motivation. The mind begins to welcome difficulty as a teacher rather than fear it as a threat. This mindset does not create immunity to hardship, but equips the individual to endure with composure, focus, and determination. Gratitude converts struggle into fuel for advancement, creating a virtuous cycle of challenge, learning, and growth. Consistency is key. Resilience is not built in moments of crisis. It is constructed through persistent engagement with daily challenges. Small, deliberate acts of mental and physical effort compound over time, producing an inner strength that is reliable, flexible, and enduring. Habits of reflection, intentional discomfort, and proactive engagement establish a foundation that allows for measured response when life's largest challenges appear. Resilience is cultivated, not inherited, and its effects are cumulative and transformative. Closing with a concrete practice reinforces the lesson. For the next 7 days, intentionally engage in one activity each day that pushes comfort limits, whether mental, emotional, or physical. Document each encounter, noting emotions, strategies used, and insights gained. Reflect nightly on progress and adjust challenges to remain slightly beyond current abilities. By the end of the week, the mind will have experienced repeated opportunities for growth, each contributing incrementally to strengthened resilience. This practice builds confidence, prepares for adversity, and instills a mindset where challenges are no longer obstacles, but instruments of personal evolution. The truth is simple: life will demand strength, patience, and endurance. Resilience ensures that those demands are met, not with despair, but with competence and courage. By confronting small daily challenges, regulating emotion, seeking lessons in adversity, and consistently pushing limits, the mind becomes impervious to discouragement. Strength is forged through action, clarity, and reflection. Each day that intentional effort is applied, the foundation for mastery, persistence, and success grows. Resilience is not a concept, it is lived experience, cultivated relentlessly and proven through every trial overcome. Chapter 5. Mindful Pause. Use reflection to regain clarity. Life often moves at a relentless pace. Every day is filled with decisions, tasks, and pressures that pull attention in multiple directions. In the chaos, clarity becomes scarce. The mind becomes cluttered, decisions feel heavy, and focus diminishes. One of the most powerful tools to regain control and perspective is the mindful pause, a deliberate moment to step back, observe, and reflect. It is not idle time. It is active mental engagement that restores clarity, strengthens judgment, and aligns action with intention. Reflection, when practiced consistently, transforms reaction into choice and confusion into insight. The first step in mastering the mindful pause is recognition. Recognizing when the mind is overloaded or reactive is essential. Emotions often signal the need for pause. Irritability, distraction, indecision, or a sense of overwhelm indicates that the brain is operating in autopilot. Awareness of these signals is the gateway to conscious intervention. Once recognized, a pause allows the mind to detach from immediate stimuli and observe patterns, assumptions, and impulses. This moment of detachment creates space for insight rather than impulsive reaction. Reflection is not about judgment or criticism. It is observation and interpretation. The goal is to identify what is working, what is misaligned, and where energy should be directed. Leonardo da Vinci practiced reflection daily, often reviewing his work, sketches, and notes to determine what required refinement. Reflection allowed him to innovate consistently because he understood the interplay between effort, outcome, and improvement. In contemporary life, such practice sharpens decision-making and ensures that energy is invested in actions that produce meaningful results, rather than wasted in distraction. Practical implementation begins with a simple exercise, the 3-question pause. Take 5 to 10 minutes and answer 3 questions in writing. What am I doing that serves my highest goals? What is consuming my energy unnecessarily? And what is the next best action I can take with clarity and purpose? Writing down answers externalizes thought, prevents rumination, and creates actionable insight. Over time, this practice cultivates a mental habit of stepping back, analyzing context, and choosing deliberate responses rather than reacting impulsively to circumstance. Real-life examples demonstrate the transformative effect of reflection. Satya Nadella, CEO of Microsoft, emphasizes introspection as a cornerstone of leadership. When faced with strategic crossroads, Nadella reportedly takes deliberate time to step away from meetings and operational noise, reflecting deeply on long-term goals, company culture, and customer impact. This practice allows decisions to be aligned with broader purpose rather than short-term pressure. Reflection does not slow progress. It amplifies it by ensuring that every action is meaningful and informed. The mindful pause also recalibrates emotions. Emotional turbulence clouds judgment, making challenges appear larger than they are. A pause enables emotional regulation by creating a psychological buffer between stimulus and response. The mind observes the emotion without being dominated by it. This capacity to witness emotion rather than react impulsively strengthens self-control, reduces regret, and enhances the quality of decisions. Neuroscience confirms that reflection activates the prefrontal cortex, the area of the brain responsible for executive function, helping rational thought prevail over impulsive reaction. Clarity emerges when reflection is structured. Random rumination often increases confusion rather than reducing it. Using prompts or structured questions focuses the mind on specific insights rather than wandering aimlessly. Another method is the evening review, where the day is analyzed for what went well, what could have been improved, and lessons learned. This process encourages accountability to oneself, reinforces positive habits, and illuminates patterns that may otherwise go unnoticed. Structure converts reflection into growth rather than a passive mental exercise. Perspective expands when reflection includes multiple lenses. Consider the challenge from emotional, practical, and long-term strategic viewpoints. By observing how an obstacle affects relationships, personal goals, and overarching purpose simultaneously, the mind sees the full context. This multidimensional approach prevents overreaction to transient issues and allows prioritization based on impact rather than urgency. Reflection without perspective is shallow. Perspective without reflection is reactive. The combination produces wisdom and informed action. The mindful pause also strengthens creativity. When the mind is constantly occupied, creative insight is suppressed. Reflection provides a mental incubator for ideas, solutions, and innovation. Steve Jobs famously emphasized the importance of stepping back from daily tasks to allow insight to emerge, often taking walks or sitting in solitude to consider product design, strategy, and customer experience. These deliberate pauses contributed directly to breakthrough innovations. Creativity thrives when the mind is uncluttered, focused, and engaged in deep reflection rather than scattered reaction. A practical application is immediate. Schedule 2 mindful pauses today, one in the morning and one in the evening. During the morning pause, focus on intentions, priorities, and potential obstacles for the day. During the evening pause, reflect on successes, missteps, and lessons learned. Record insights in a notebook or digital document. This dual practice anchors daily life in awareness, ensures alignment with purpose, and trains the mind to view challenges as manageable rather than overwhelming. Language and internal dialogue influence the effectiveness of reflection. Avoid self-criticism and focus on constructive inquiry. Replace "I failed" with "What can I learn from this?" or "How can I improve for the next opportunity?" Reflection is most powerful when curiosity drives it, rather than guilt or fear. This mindset fosters resilience, encourages problem-solving, and strengthens confidence. A reflective mind understands setbacks are data points, not verdicts on personal worth or ability. Reflection also improves decision-making under pressure. In the heat of stress, the mind often defaults to habitual responses or short-term fixes. Regular practice of mindful pauses builds the mental muscle to step back, analyze context, and act with deliberate choice. Over time, decisions are increasingly informed by insight rather than impulse. Leaders, creatives, and high performers across disciplines rely on this ability to consistently make rational, impactful choices under pressure, demonstrating that reflection is not passive, it is strategic preparation for action. Daily reflection cultivates gratitude alongside clarity. Observing what is functioning, acknowledging personal effort, and recognizing small victories reinforces positive thinking. Gratitude paired with insight reduces anxiety, enhances resilience, and provides motivation to continue pursuing goals. Reflection becomes a lens through which life's challenges are understood and appreciated rather than feared. A real-world example of structured reflection comes from professional athletes. Elite competitors review performance footage daily, noting strengths, weaknesses, and actionable adjustments. This is not about judgment, but understanding cause and effect. By analyzing outcomes, identifying patterns, and planning incremental improvements, athletes gain precision, efficiency, and confidence. Reflection transforms effort into learning and learning into mastery. Closing practice for today. Dedicate 10 minutes to a focused pause. Sit quietly, breathe deeply, and answer 3 questions. What was accomplished? What requires adjustment? And what is the immediate next action that aligns with purpose? Record your answers. Commit to applying at least one insight from this reflection in the next task. Over weeks, this habit sharpens mental clarity, enhances emotional regulation, and transforms overwhelming complexity into actionable, purpose-driven steps. The mindful pause is not a luxury, it is essential. Life accelerates, distractions multiply, and clarity becomes rare. Reflection provides control, perspective, and wisdom. By intentionally stepping back, asking the right questions, observing without judgment, and documenting insights, the mind strengthens its capacity to navigate challenges. This practice converts confusion into understanding, reaction into choice, and busyness into deliberate progress. Regular reflection builds a life of intention, clarity, and strategic action, creating space for success even in the midst of chaos. Chapter 6. Support Systems. Surround yourself with positive people. The people you surround yourself with shape your mindset, your energy, and your trajectory. Every conversation, every interaction subtly influences beliefs, motivation, and resilience. Negative, draining individuals can sap energy, cloud judgment, and diminish ambition, while positive, growth-oriented people act as catalysts, amplifying potential and fueling progress. Success rarely happens in isolation. It is built on networks of encouragement, shared wisdom, and honest feedback. The quality of your support system is a direct reflection of how high you can rise, how far you can push, and how consistently you can maintain momentum when challenges arise. Choosing the right support system begins with intentional awareness. Observe how interactions make you feel. Do conversations leave you energized, inspired, and focused, or drained, frustrated, and doubtful? Emotional residue is telling. Positive influences do not merely flatter, they challenge, encourage, and expand perspective while reinforcing belief in potential. Negative influences, even subtly, instill hesitation, self-doubt, and distraction. Recognizing the difference is the first step toward constructing a network that serves growth rather than hinders it. Connection with like-minded individuals amplifies consistency and accountability. When pursuing ambitious goals, isolation magnifies self-doubt. A circle of individuals who share drive, discipline, or vision establishes a built-in feedback loop. Achievements are celebrated, setbacks analyzed constructively, and accountability becomes a natural expectation rather than external pressure. High-performing entrepreneurs, athletes, and creators leverage peer groups to maintain focus and cultivate habits. Elon Musk attributes much of his perseverance to collaboration with teams who share similar intensity and curiosity. The synergy created by alignment multiplies results beyond what an individual could achieve alone. Practical implementation begins with evaluating existing relationships. Identify 5 people in daily life who influence mood, energy, or behavior significantly. Categorize each as either supportive, neutral, or draining. Recognize that neutrality is acceptable but not empowering. Supportive individuals elevate thought, perspective, and action. Draining influences may need boundaries or reduced exposure. This exercise clarifies where attention, time, and energy are invested and provides a foundation for cultivating a network aligned with growth objectives. Real-life examples show the power of positive networks. Serena Williams, one of the most accomplished athletes of all time, credits her inner circle family, coaches, and mentors for sustaining resilience and focus. During periods of injury, personal challenge, or competitive stress, her team provided honest feedback, motivation, and emotional grounding. The difference between recovery and stagnation was not only talent, but consistent engagement with individuals committed to her long-term success. Support systems provide not just encouragement, but strategic guidance, insight, and perspective that reinforce perseverance. Positive people also model mindset and behavior. Humans learn by observation. The habits, language, and energy of those around us influence unconscious patterns. Individuals who demonstrate discipline, optimism, and solution-oriented thinking teach resilience and consistency simply through presence. Conversely, Constant exposure to pessimism, blame, or passivity creates cognitive and emotional drift. This subtle mimicry explains why high achievers are often part of communities that reflect their values, priorities, and ambitions. Surrounding yourself with high-quality influences accelerates growth through observational learning, reinforcement, and inspiration. Creating a culture of mutual accountability strengthens progress. Support systems thrive when each member actively participates in goal alignment. Honest feedback and shared encouragement, accountability partners, mastermind groups, or peer mentors ensure that vision is maintained during times of distraction, doubt, or difficulty. The principle is simple: shared commitment produces measurable momentum, and collaborative reinforcement embeds resilience and focus into daily practice. This structure transforms ambition from wishful thinking into consistent action. Practical daily practice is immediate. Identify one individual today who uplifts, challenges, or motivates you, and schedule a conversation or check-in. Discuss a goal, share a challenge, or ask for constructive input. Document insights gained from the interaction and apply at least one recommendation immediately. Repetition of this practice builds a supportive pattern, strengthens relationships, and embeds external accountability into personal growth. Each positive interaction compounds motivation, perspective, and clarity, reinforcing the value of a strong network. Support systems also provide perspective during stress. When confronting uncertainty, obstacles, or failure, the mind often overemphasizes negatives. A network of grounded, experienced, or insightful individuals serves as a mirror, reflecting reality with clarity rather than distortion. They help differentiate between temporary setbacks and systemic issues, prioritize focus, and provide reassurance without false comfort. Perspective from trusted sources is a stabilizer for decision-making and emotional regulation, allowing resilience to persist under pressure. Language and reinforcement within a support system are powerful. Positive communication is explicit and deliberate. Compliments, constructive critique, encouragement, and recognition are not superficial. They are signals to the brain that effort is valued and worthwhile. Human cognition responds to reinforcement. Praise for specific behavior, guidance on improvement, or acknowledgement of progress strengthens neural patterns associated with motivation, persistence, and self-efficacy. The right support system generates momentum not only externally but internally, shaping self-belief and confidence over time. Strategic expansion of support networks is critical. Identify communities, groups, or associations aligned with goals or values. Networking with individuals who share similar ambitions, principles, or work ethic multiplies opportunity. Mentorship, mastermind groups, or educational communities provide insight, resources, and perspective that accelerate learning curves. By intentionally cultivating environments rich in positive influence, the mind and behavior are optimized for performance, innovation, and resilience. Boundaries are equally essential. Not all exposure is beneficial. Interactions that consistently induce negativity, distraction, or regression must be managed or minimized. Protecting attention, time, and energy is not selfish, it is tactical. Just as a physical environment influences productivity, emotional and social environments shape mindset. Boundaries ensure that effort is reinforced rather than diluted, preserving focus for meaningful, growth-oriented interactions. Support systems also foster courage. Attempting new challenges often evokes fear, doubt, or hesitation. Positive, invested individuals normalize risk-taking, provide encouragement, and model calculated boldness. Their presence reduces isolation in the face of difficulty and reinforces the belief that potential is worth pursuing. The courage to act often emerges not solely from internal drive, but from the reassurance and accountability provided by a trusted circle. Real-world application demonstrates this vividly. In business, Richard Branson emphasizes that his success relies on the strength of his teams and advisors. He surrounds himself with people whose skills complement his own and who are willing to challenge him constructively. Each decision benefits from diverse input, and each failure is mitigated through shared wisdom. The support system multiplies capability, reduces risk, and amplifies execution speed. Success is not the product of solitary brilliance. It is the product of a network aligned in focus, energy, and insight. Closing practice for today: select 2 individuals whose influence you value and arrange a deliberate interaction this week. Share a goal, request feedback, or discuss a challenge you are facing. During the conversation, actively listen, note insights, and identify one actionable step to implement immediately. Over time, consistently engaging with supportive individuals compounds motivation, clarity, and strategic advantage. The quality of the people around you determines how high you can climb and how resiliently you respond to setbacks. Positive support systems amplify effort, model constructive behavior, provide perspective, and enforce accountability. They create momentum when motivation falters and inspiration when energy wanes. By carefully choosing who is allowed into daily mental and emotional space, boundaries reinforced, and meaningful interaction prioritized, individuals cultivate an ecosystem where growth, clarity, and resilience flourish. The trajectory of success is inseparable from the people who shape, challenge, and sustain it. Surround yourself wisely, nurture these relationships, and watch both capability and confidence expand exponentially. Chapter 7. Self-compassion. Celebrate effort, not perfection. Perfection is a mirage that convinces the mind to measure worth against impossible standards. The pursuit of flawless outcomes often leads to frustration, procrastination, and self-criticism. The mind becomes trapped in judgment rather than progress. Self-compassion is the antidote. It is the deliberate practice of treating oneself with the same kindness, patience, and understanding that would be extended to a friend. By celebrating effort rather than fixating on perfection, individuals create an environment where growth, resilience, and sustained motivation flourish. Self-compassion transforms challenges from threats to opportunities, mistakes into lessons, and effort into achievement. The foundation of self-compassion begins with awareness. Observe the internal dialogue, particularly in moments of difficulty, failure, or challenge. How does the mind respond when expectations are not met? Harsh criticism, self-blame, or shame are indicators that self-compassion is absent. Awareness does not mean indulgence or avoidance of responsibility. It is recognition that the mind reacts instinctively and that deliberate intervention is possible. The goal is to shift from punitive self-talk to constructive support. This shift redefines the relationship between effort, result, and self-worth. Psychologists have consistently shown that self-compassion enhances resilience and performance. People who treat themselves with understanding are more likely to recover from setbacks quickly, maintain motivation, and embrace challenges without fear of failure. Compassion toward oneself activates neural pathways associated with reward, calm, and focus, while self-criticism triggers stress, distraction, and emotional drain. The mind functions best when effort is acknowledged and mistakes are framed as temporary, learnable, and correctable rather than definitive judgments on character or ability. Practical application begins with a simple, daily exercise: the effort reflection. At the end of each day, identify 3 specific actions where effort was applied, regardless of outcome. Write them down, and for each, note why the effort itself is valuable. For instance, submitting a report even with uncertainty, initiating a challenging conversation, or attempting a skill that is not yet mastered. The focus is on process, engagement, and perseverance, rather than flawless execution. This practice gradually trains the mind to value the energy and intention behind actions. Real-life examples demonstrate the transformative power of self-compassion. Michael Jordan, widely regarded as the greatest basketball player of all time, famously stated, "I've failed over and over and over again in my life, and that is why I succeed." Jordan's recognition that failure and mistakes were integral to learning and improvement highlights the essence of celebrating effort. Each missed shot, lost game, or setback was an opportunity to apply lessons, refine technique, and grow stronger. The emphasis was not on the perfection of performance, but on consistent commitment and willingness to engage fully in the process. Self-compassion also reduces the paralysis that stems from fear of judgment. When the mind internalizes harsh standards, hesitation often overrides action. Perfectionism fosters avoidance, whereas self-compassion creates a safe internal environment for experimentation, risk-taking, and growth. By valuing effort over outcome, the individual is free to pursue challenges without the fear of failure becoming immobilizing. This mindset fosters creativity, innovation, and persistent engagement with ambitious goals. Language and internal dialogue play a critical role in cultivating self-compassion. Replace "I failed" with "I tried and learned," or "this was a step in the process." Words shape thought and emotion, consciously framing experiences around effort and growth, rather than outcome rewires neural patterns toward resilience, motivation, and positive reinforcement. This approach ensures that each attempt, even imperfect, contributes to long-term mastery rather than eroding confidence. Celebrating effort is not synonymous with complacency. Accountability and growth remain central. The difference lies in emphasis. Self-compassion acknowledges what went well, what was attempted, and what can be improved, without devaluing the individual for imperfections. This balance prevents discouragement while maintaining focus on actionable improvement. Individuals are more likely to persist when mistakes are seen as temporary learning points, rather than evidence of inadequacy. A practical exercise is immediate. After completing a task, pause and consciously acknowledge the effort applied, independent of results. Verbally or mentally affirm the value of engagement. "I committed fully to this task, and that effort matters." Pairing this acknowledgement with reflection on one specific lesson or insight reinforces both self-compassion and growth orientation. Repeating this process daily strengthens neural pathways, linking effort with reward and self-belief. Real-world application is evident in creative fields. Writers, artists, and performers often face rejection, critique, and imperfection in their work. Successful creatives cultivate self-compassion to maintain engagement. J.K. Rowling's initial manuscript rejections, Vincent van Gogh's struggle for recognition, and composers' refining works repeatedly illustrate the principle: persistence fueled by acknowledgement of effort, not fixation on immediate perfection, produces enduring achievement. Effort becomes the metric of progress, not external validation or outcome. Self-compassion also enhances emotional regulation. Harsh self-criticism amplifies stress hormones, narrows focus, and undermines decision-making. In contrast, kindness toward oneself stabilizes emotion, allowing clearer thinking, more deliberate action, and higher quality performance. By framing effort as commendable, the mind is reinforced to persist despite discomfort, uncertainty, or minor failures. The practice builds a psychological foundation where effort is intrinsically motivating, independent of external recognition. Consistency magnifies impact. Self-compassion must be deliberate and repeated. A single acknowledgement is helpful, but ongoing daily reinforcement ensures that internalized perfectionism is gradually replaced with a growth-focused mindset. Celebrate micro efforts. Recognize incremental improvement and consciously redirect internal dialogue from critique to encouragement. Over weeks, this rewires thought patterns, creating a mind that thrives on progress rather than being derailed by imperfection. Another practice involves reframing mistakes as experiments. Each challenge, failure, or error is a test of knowledge, skill, or approach. By viewing attempts as experiments, the mind recognizes that errors are data points rather than judgments. Recording lessons learned from each attempt emphasizes growth and reinforces the value of engagement over flawless execution. This mindset transforms setbacks from discouragement into actionable intelligence, sustaining motivation and promoting consistent improvement. Positive examples of self-compassion reinforce this approach. Serena Williams' career demonstrates a balance between striving for excellence and acknowledging human limits. During periods of injury or loss, she celebrated the effort she applied in training, recovery, and preparation, recognizing that persistence and engagement were more important than flawless performance. This perspective preserved confidence, maintained focus, and enabled continued success over decades. The closing practice for today is simple but transformative. Identify one task you recently completed or attempted where outcome was imperfect. Write down exactly what effort you invested, what you learned, and one positive aspect of engagement. Affirm internally or aloud that the effort matters. Commit to repeating this for 3 tasks today. This repeated acknowledgement strengthens neural pathways that link effort with reward, embeds resilience, and reframes mistakes as stepping stones. The essence of self-compassion is understanding that worth is not determined by perfection, but by commitment, effort, and willingness to engage. By celebrating effort, individuals cultivate resilience, maintain motivation, and foster a mindset that embraces challenges. Growth, mastery, and lasting achievement arise from persistence, learning, and deliberate effort. Every attempt, regardless of outcome, becomes a building block for capability, confidence, and long-term success. Self-compassion transforms how the mind experiences effort, mistakes, and progress, creating a sustainable path to excellence without the burden of impossible standards. Chapter 8. Visualize success. Imagine progress, not just outcomes. Success is not merely a destination, it is a process, a series of deliberate actions and consistent progress. Visualization is a powerful tool that bridges intention with achievement, yet many limit this practice to imagining outcomes alone, winning the race, landing the promotion, or achieving a goal. True effectiveness comes from visualizing progress itself, the small, consistent steps, the disciplined effort, the incremental victories that accumulate into tangible results. When the mind rehearses progress, confidence grows, obstacles appear manageable, and motivation becomes sustainable. Imagining the journey rather than only the destination rewires the brain to act, adapt, and persist in ways that passive hope never can. The foundation of visualization is vivid mental imagery. Picture yourself not just receiving success, but actively engaging in the behaviors that produce it. See the early mornings, the practice sessions, the meticulous attention to detail, and the steady effort that is required. This kind of visualization primes the brain for action, creating neural patterns that mirror real-life execution. Neuroscience demonstrates that imagining a skill activates many of the same brain regions as performing it physically. Mental rehearsal is not fantasy, it is preparation. Visualizing progress also enhances problem-solving capacity. When challenges arise, the mind trained to imagine small, deliberate steps responds with creativity and resilience rather than panic. By mentally rehearsing both effort and potential obstacles, the brain becomes familiar with scenarios that could otherwise cause hesitation or self-doubt. This preparation creates confidence because the mind has already experienced navigating difficulty, making action feel natural and manageable. A practical application begins with a simple exercise, the step visualization. Take 5 to 10 minutes each morning to imagine completing one specific step toward a goal. Focus not on the outcome, but on the execution, the mindset required, the challenges faced, and the strategies applied. For instance, if the goal is writing a book, visualize sitting down, crafting one chapter, editing and adjusting based on reflection. Experience the process fully in the mind. Repetition strengthens the neural pathways associated with consistent action, making actual execution more fluid and motivated. Real-world examples reveal the power of process-oriented visualization. Olympic athletes, for instance, visualize every motion of their performance before stepping onto the track or field. Simone Biles mentally rehearses routines thousands of times, focusing not only on landing perfectly but on each flip, twist, and transition. This detailed imagery reinforces technique, reduces performance anxiety, and ensures that effort translates into results. The visualization of progress primes execution more effectively than imagining only medals or accolades. Visualization also strengthens emotional endurance. Anticipating the small victories and minor setbacks prepares the mind for realistic experience. By imagining the journey including effort, fatigue, and decision points, the brain develops emotional resilience. Setbacks become less intimidating because they have been mentally rehearsed, and persistence becomes instinctive. The mind trained in detailed visualization is equipped not only to act, but to endure, adapt, and maintain clarity under pressure. Language enhances visualization. Speak internally in process-focused terms. I will complete this step carefully and fully, instead of I will achieve the goal perfectly. The former emphasizes action and effort, which are controllable, while the latter emphasizes results, which are often influenced by external factors. This linguistic shift directs attention to what can be controlled, reducing anxiety and fostering proactive behavior. Consistently pairing mental imagery with process-oriented language reinforces behavior and builds confidence through repeated internal practice. Another powerful dimension of visualization is integration with reflection. After completing tasks, mentally review the process, visualize where execution succeeded, where adjustment was needed, and how the next step can be approached more effectively. This combination of forward-focused and retrospective mental rehearsal compounds learning, strengthens planning skills, and enhances overall mastery. Visualization becomes a dynamic tool for continual improvement rather than a passive mental exercise. A practical exercise to implement immediately is to identify one key goal for the week. Close your eyes for 5 minutes and vividly imagine completing the first step toward this goal, paying attention to actions, mindset, and minor obstacles. Then visualize the subsequent step, creating a chain of progress that culminates in measurable achievement. Record the insights gained and apply at least one immediately. Over time, this practice builds momentum, rewires neural pathways for persistence, and transforms abstract intention into actionable behavior. Real-life entrepreneurial examples illustrate this vividly. Richard Branson emphasizes envisioning not just company success, but each action required to achieve it. negotiating deals, refining strategies, managing teams, and facing setbacks. By visualizing both challenges and progress, execution becomes deliberate and adaptable rather than reactive. Success is a series of rehearsed actions, and visualization of these actions enhances clarity, speed, and efficacy in decision-making. Visualization also fosters motivation by linking effort to reward in a realistic context. Imagining small accomplishments generates a sense of achievement that encourages continued engagement. Unlike distant or abstract outcomes, progress-focused visualization produces immediate psychological reinforcement. Each mental rehearsal of effort and incremental improvement releases dopamine, reinforcing persistence and focus. Motivation becomes internalized and sustainable, no longer dependent solely on external validation or final outcomes. Consistency in this practice is essential. Daily visualization of progress reinforces the neural circuits that drive action, reduces procrastination, and aligns attention with priorities. It also builds adaptability. When unexpected challenges appear, the mind, trained to visualize steps and solutions, responds with creativity rather than stress. The brain becomes conditioned to seek actionable paths and anticipate both success and obstacles in a realistic, process-oriented manner. A complementary practice is to combine visualization with journaling. After mentally rehearsing steps toward a goal, write down the sequence, noting insights, potential obstacles, and strategies. This act externalizes the mental process, reinforces learning, and creates a tangible roadmap for action. Combining imagination with documentation bridges mind and reality, ensuring that visualization translates into measurable, deliberate execution. The essence of visualizing success lies in imagining not only where one wants to end up, but how one will get there. Progress-focused visualization strengthens the mind, enhances emotional resilience, improves decision-making, and amplifies motivation. By repeatedly rehearsing the steps required for achievement, the mind internalizes the path to success, making execution more natural, consistent, and confident. Every mental rehearsal of action is a rehearsal of victory, preparing the mind to navigate challenges, persist under pressure, and transform effort into results. For a closing practice today, choose a personal goal and spend 10 minutes visualizing every step required to make progress this week. Focus on the effort, the obstacles, and the small wins. Record insights and apply at least one action immediately. Repeating this consistently rewires thought patterns, primes action, and turns abstract ambition into concrete progress. Visualization becomes not a passive daydream, but an active rehearsal for achievement, ensuring that success is not only imagined, but lived through deliberate, consistent effort. Chapter 9. Action beats emotion. Take one step, always. The mind is powerful, but it is also often a battlefield of conflicting emotions. Fear, doubt, frustration, and overwhelm can dominate thought, making even the simplest tasks feel impossible. Waiting for motivation or perfect clarity before acting is a trap that paralyzes progress. Action is the antidote to emotion. Movement, even small and deliberate, creates momentum, rewires the brain, and transforms anxiety into accomplishment. Every step taken toward a goal reduces emotional intensity and replaces it with measurable evidence of progress. The principle is simple: the mind reacts to motion. When you act, emotions follow. Emotions are signals, not directives. Fear indicates caution, but it is not an instruction to stop. Doubt signals the need for information or preparation, but it is not a verdict on capability. Waiting for complete emotional certainty delays action indefinitely. By choosing one concrete step, no matter how small, you activate the brain's reward system, generating confidence, clarity, and energy. Neuroscience demonstrates that movement reduces stress-related cortisol and increases dopamine, reinforcing persistence. Taking action, even in discomfort, shifts the internal environment from reactive to proactive. The process begins with clarity on one small, achievable action. Large goals are often overwhelming because they are abstract and distant. Breaking them into manageable steps neutralizes intimidation. Each completed step produces evidence of capability and progress, reinforcing the habit of action. The cumulative effect is profound. Consistent action transforms inertia into momentum, fear into confidence, and uncertainty into structured accomplishment. A practical application is immediate. Identify one step you can take toward a significant goal today. It must be actionable and specific. Writing a paragraph, making a call, organizing materials, or completing a research task. Commit to completing this step fully before moving to emotion-driven analysis or waiting for motivation. Observe the effect on mindset. Anxiety decreases, clarity increases, and the brain registers tangible accomplishment. Repetition of this practice embeds the principle that action precedes emotion rather than being dictated by it. Real-world examples demonstrate the effectiveness of small, consistent action. Jeff Bezos, founder of Amazon, often emphasized starting with manageable experiments. Instead of waiting for perfect conditions to launch, early iterations of Amazon were modest but deliberate steps. Sending books from a garage, testing website performance, and refining operations incrementally. Each small action created momentum, informed the next move, and gradually built the massive enterprise known today. Action created clarity and confidence that emotion alone could not generate. Action also builds resilience against negative thought patterns. When fear or self-doubt dominates, physical or mental motion interrupts rumination. Writing down one key step, completing it, and observing the result creates a positive feedback loop. Each completed action rewires neural pathways, demonstrating that capability exceeds the mind's projections of limitation. Momentum replaces hesitation, allowing the individual to tackle increasingly complex or challenging steps without being paralyzed by emotion. Language and internal dialogue are powerful allies in translating action into sustained progress. Replace self-limiting thoughts like "I don't feel ready" with statements such as "I will take one step now" or "Progress is built step by step." This linguistic shift aligns mental focus with behavior, ensuring that the mind serves action rather than obstructing it. Consistent reinforcement through words and deeds creates a habit where initiative precedes emotion, transforming how challenges are approached. Another dimension of action-focused success is visible in creative fields. Writers, musicians, and artists often face internal resistance, uncertainty, or fear of imperfection. J.K. Rowling, despite repeated rejections and uncertainty, wrote consistently, completing chapters even when motivation wavered. Each step, writing a paragraph, editing a section, submitting a manuscript, built tangible progress and reinforced belief in capability. Action, rather than emotion, drove eventual accomplishment. A practical exercise to implement immediately is the one-step rule. Identify a current task or goal and determine the smallest action that moves it forward. Take that step within the next hour, without hesitation or analysis paralysis. Record completion and reflect on the resulting clarity, reduced stress, and confidence. Repeat daily. This simple rule trains the mind to respond to goals with immediate motion, ensuring that emotion never becomes the gatekeeper to progress. Action also transforms uncertainty into learning. Each step produces feedback, whether success, failure, or partial completion. This evidence allows refinement of strategy, identification of obstacles, and incremental improvement. Without action, emotion dominates, speculation replaces data, and progress stalls. Action generates information. Momentum is built through repeated iteration, where each step informs the next, creating measurable advancement and reducing reliance on fluctuating motivation or emotional state. Supportive structures amplify the effect of action. Accountability partners, mentors, or teams reinforce the habit of taking one step consistently. Sharing progress, requesting feedback, or simply declaring intention enhances commitment. Social reinforcement strengthens the neural patterns associated with deliberate action, creating compounded momentum. Leaders in technology, sports, and business often rely on such support systems to maintain consistency when emotional resistance or self-doubt is high. Emotion is never eliminated, but redirected through action. Anxiety, fear, and doubt are natural, but they lose potency when the body and mind are engaged in tangible effort. The mind begins to associate effort with progress rather than stagnation, creating an internal cycle where taking steps diminishes emotional intensity. Over time, the habit of prioritizing action establishes a proactive mindset where opportunities are seized, challenges are addressed, and goals are advanced consistently. A complementary practice is micro-action mapping. Break major goals into sequences of small, immediate steps. Each step should be achievable within a short time frame and provide measurable progress. Document completion and reflect briefly on insights or adjustments. Over days and weeks, these micro-actions accumulate into significant advancement, demonstrating the principle that action, not waiting for emotion or perfect conditions, drives results. Real-life business leaders illustrate this principle clearly. Elon Musk, when launching SpaceX, emphasized rapid prototyping and testing. Even in the face of uncertainty, risk, and repeated failures, he prioritized immediate action, building prototypes, testing engines, and refining processes. Emotion often presented fear and doubt, yet deliberate action created clarity, revealed flaws, and built momentum that would eventually achieve extraordinary results. Movement created progress, emotion followed, not led. The closing practice for today is straightforward but transformative. Select one goal that feels daunting, identify a single actionable step, and complete it within the next hour. Observe the immediate impact on mindset, energy, and clarity. Repeat this process consistently, ensuring that each day produces at least one concrete forward movement. By taking action before being controlled by fear, hesitation, or doubt, momentum compounds, confidence grows, and the mind learns that effort produces clarity and results. The essence of this principle is undeniable. Motion is the antidote to emotional paralysis. Consistent, deliberate action, even in small increments, transforms fear into confidence, uncertainty into insight, and ambition into measurable progress. Waiting for emotion or perfect conditions delays success, while one committed step taken today becomes the foundation for mastery tomorrow. Action beats emotion, always, because the path to achievement is forged, not in thought or feeling, but in relentless, deliberate motion. Chapter 10. Consistency over motivation. Habits carry you forward. Motivation is fleeting. One day it surges with intensity, energizing effort, and the next day it disappears, leaving tasks unfinished, goals delayed, and momentum stalled. Relying solely on motivation is a trap. It is unreliable, inconsistent, and often influenced by external factors beyond control. The real engine of achievement is consistency. Small, deliberate, repeated actions form habits, and habits compound over time into remarkable results. While motivation sparks action, consistency sustains it. Habits become automatic, requiring less cognitive effort, less emotional energy, and less reliance on fluctuating willpower. This is the secret of high performers across disciplines. They build systems that move them forward regardless of daily feelings. Consistency begins with clarity of purpose and prioritization. Understanding why an action matters, linking it to a meaningful goal, and defining measurable steps creates a structure that encourages repetition. Ambiguity undermines consistency. When goals are vague, actions waver. When systems are defined, the mind defaults to execution. Clear routines and structured environments reduce friction and make following through easier, embedding behavior into daily life until it becomes automatic. Habits are the architecture of consistent achievement. Each action, repeated over time, reinforces neural pathways, making the behavior progressively effortless. James Clear, author of Atomic Habits, emphasizes that tiny changes, repeated daily, produce compounding outcomes far beyond initial expectations. This principle applies to every area of life: fitness, learning, productivity, creativity, or personal growth. Even a 5-minute daily habit, executed reliably, transforms into significant progress within months. Consistency, not intensity, determines long-term success. A practical application starts with defining one keystone habit, a small action that drives broader progress. For instance, committing to write 300 words daily, meditate for 5 minutes, or review finances each morning establishes a rhythm that influences other behaviors. Focus on the smallest unit of progress achievable without failure. Over time, this micro-consistency builds confidence, momentum, and the neural foundation for additional habits, creating a self-reinforcing cycle of achievement. Real-life examples demonstrate the power of daily consistency. Warren Buffett attributes much of his extraordinary success to disciplined routines, daily reading, careful evaluation of investment opportunities, and consistent application of principles. He did not rely on bursts of inspiration or occasional brilliance. Instead, the compounding effect of repeated, deliberate actions produced mastery, insight, and exceptional results over decades. The foundation of achievement is reliable behavior, not fluctuating emotion. Consistency also builds resilience. Daily habits create a predictable framework that shields against distraction, doubt, and fatigue. When routines are established, challenges are met with automatic discipline rather than decision fatigue. The mind learns to respond with habitual effort, regardless of emotion or circumstance. This is why elite performers, from athletes to CEOs, emphasize routine. Habits create stability in unpredictable environments, ensuring progress even under pressure. Language shapes consistency. Internal dialogue should focus on repetition rather than intensity. I follow through every day rather than I need to feel inspired. Words influence perception and behavior. Framing tasks as non-negotiable habits rather than optional activities reduces reliance on motivation. The mind responds to structure, predictability, and expectation. Habits are reinforced when they are integrated into identity rather than treated as occasional efforts. A practical exercise is the daily minimum commitment. Identify one action tied to a long-term goal and commit to completing it at a minimum level every day, no matter circumstances. For example, if learning a language, commit to studying 1 page or 1 lesson daily. If fitness is the goal, perform 5 push-ups or a 1-minute plank. The focus is on unbroken streaks, which reinforce identity, build momentum, and train the brain to prioritize completion over intensity. Over time, these minimums expand naturally, but the key is reliability. Consistency compounds when combined with reflection. Tracking habits, reviewing completion, and analyzing obstacles strengthen adherence. Journaling daily or using digital trackers provides visual evidence of streaks, accomplishments, and incremental progress. This feedback loop increases accountability, reinforces patterns, and provides motivation independent of fleeting emotions. Seeing tangible accumulation of effort strengthens belief in ability and demonstrates the power of compounding action. Real-world application can be observed in creative mastery. Stephen King, one of the most prolific authors of modern times, writes daily without waiting for inspiration. Each day, he completes a set word count, whether motivated or not. This unwavering consistency produces extraordinary output and refines skill over decades. The habit itself becomes the vehicle for growth. Motivation is irrelevant because the system ensures forward progress. Consistency also strengthens decision-making and self-discipline. When actions are habitual, choices are simplified. The mind defaults to what is necessary rather than debating each step. This reduces procrastination, conserves mental energy, and allows focus on higher-level strategy and creativity. Systems that embed habits into daily life free the mind from constant deliberation, increasing productivity and reducing stress. The psychological principle behind habit formation is clear. Repeated exposure to a behavior increases neural efficiency. As actions are repeated, cognitive load decreases, stress diminishes, and performance improves. Habits become second nature, requiring minimal willpower. This is the ultimate leverage of consistency. Long-term mastery achieved through small, repeated, and reliable actions. A complementary practice is habit stacking. Attach a new desired behavior to an existing routine. For instance, meditate immediately after brushing teeth, or journal after morning coffee. This linkage reduces friction and ensures regularity. By connecting new actions to established routines, consistency becomes natural rather than forced, embedding growth behaviors seamlessly into daily life. Consistency also provides emotional stability. When daily routines are predictable, the mind is less reactive to external stressors. Confidence grows because the individual knows that no matter external circumstances, forward motion is guaranteed. Habits act as anchors, providing reassurance that effort and progress are continuous, creating a mental environment conducive to success. Practical reinforcement is vital. Use accountability, either through social networks, apps, or peer commitments. Sharing streaks, discussing challenges, and celebrating small wins reinforces habit formation. Public or social accountability strengthens adherence, while internal tracking ensures self-reinforcement. Both combine to create a powerful system where consistency becomes the default mode of operation rather than a struggle against circumstance. Closing exercise: identify one high-impact habit related to a long-term goal. Define the smallest daily unit of execution. Commit to performing it every day for a minimum of 30 days, regardless of motivation or emotional state. Track completion, note progress, and reflect weekly on improvement. Repetition strengthens neural pathways, builds identity, and demonstrates the principle that habits, not fleeting bursts of motivation, carry achievement forward. Consistency transforms effort into results, motivation into routine, and intention into action. It is the difference between fleeting inspiration and sustained mastery. Habits create compounding progress, resilience under pressure, and a framework for lifelong growth. By prioritizing reliability over emotion, integrating actions into daily systems, and committing to unbroken routines, individuals unlock the power to advance steadily toward ambitious goals. Every small, repeated action is a building block of extraordinary success.